Good evening. Welcome to the Automotive Mobility Innovation Center, which is also known as the AMIC, and to the 2025 Marysville State of the City. I'm overwhelmed by the attendance. This is awesome. We've got a lot of things going on in this community, and I think it's, you can see that's the case by just the people that are in the room today. And you're going to get a chance to meet some other people today during the course of the State of the City. Real quick, before we get into the opening of the State of the City, I did want to real quickly introduce our City Council. Our President of Council, Donald Berger, right here. Our Vice President of Council, Scott Hunter. Stephen Wolf, Zach Bordner, Julie Kramer, Mark Reams, and Hank Burby. I'll tell you, they've been incredible. At times, I know the newer council members, they feel like they've been drinking out of a fire hose, but they've taken it incredibly well. Worked very well with various things that are going on in the community, and you're going to see some of those things this evening. So without any further ado, if it's okay, I think I'll go ahead and switch over to the video. Thank you. As we begin 2025, I'd like to provide a brief overview of what our city experienced in 2024. Uptown Marysville continued to experience business growth and development during 2024.
I grew up in Marysville, and the McCarthy family that I'm a part of have been merchants in Marysville going back to the 1920s. My grandfather and grandmother had a variety of businesses. They managed the Dairy Queen at one point. They had a Midtown bar. They had a tire store. My father had McCarthy Pharmacy, which I grew up in. Of course, we had Weiss Department Store. So our family has a pretty rich heritage of serving the public and benefiting from living in Marysville and being a part of this community. Second chances came to be because this community has been so good to us in so many ways. We were looking for a way to make a difference, to give back. We created a charity, a 501c3 that can receive donations of gently used items that we can turn into cash to support important ministries in our community, trying to make a difference for our neighbor. And we're really been overwhelmed at how the community's embraced us, far exceeding our initial projections. We also have had broad support from the church communities. Over 60 churches have affiliated with Second Chances. Their members donate things. We donate back to those churches gift cards to the thrift store, proportionally based on the gifts we receive from them. It's a true win-win. My wife and I get a lot of credit for having started it, but we've got a very strong board and an army of volunteers who actually make it happen every day. From processing donations to meeting the public to running the store, we couldn't do it without them. And we're just humbled and excited to see how we've grown. We started with one store, a location that was my father's pharmacy for many, many years. So we have a very favorable landlord. He treats us very well. Earlier this year, we opened a second location where Goodies Galore used to be in downtown Marysville. We have a Christmas store in the basement, and the first floor is primarily furniture. And the original store now is almost all clothing, jewelry, shoes, but the public is really supporting us, and we're proud to support them.
So I co-own Iron Threads with my mom. It's a little mother-daughter project that we had a dream of for a long time, and finally this year we're able to make that dream become a reality. We opened in March of 2024, And so it's been about 8 months that we've been here, and we love being in Uptown Marysville. Iron Threads sells men's and women's kind of casual, comfy clothes, sweaters, jeans, tees, and we try to keep our prices at a good price point for the Marysville community. I grew up in Central Ohio and moved away for college and for a few years of work. And when I decided that I wanted to move back to be closer to my family and come back to my local roots, we decided to plant here in Marysville. My husband and I love this community and love what it stands for. And so when my mom and I decided that we wanted to open the business, there was no other option but opening it in Uptown Marysville. It was very important for us to have that community feel, to be able to connect with our own neighbors here. And so opening a spot that men and women of all sizes, we carry, extra small to, 3, 4X, for them to be able to come in and shop and feel comfortable, and shopping at a good price point in this economy just is nice to bring people in and together and to have them feel welcome and in clothes that they feel comfortable in. And, we offer everything from jeans to t-shirts to sweaters, some more business casual dresses. And we also offer local spirit wear, from Marysville to Fairbanks and Jonathan Alder, just a place that people can represent their community and feel good about themselves while doing it. As Marysville continues to expand and we see a lot of growth and new neighborhoods and developments coming in, it is so nice to have new small businesses coming in to Uptown Marysville and all over Marysville, to be able to provide this community with places to shop and eat and visit with their family and not have to leave Marysville to be able to enjoy activities, on a Saturday with their family. So anything that my family can do to make Marysville feel more welcoming to other families is something that's really important to us.
Yeasty Boys Delicatessen started off as a dream concept from when I did the farmers markets here in town, and it grew into somewhere where I felt this community would really appreciate and enjoy healthy foods. We're tremendously grateful for the love and support that we've gotten from this community, from Marysville, from the neighboring communities as well that come in here. Our neighbors, our friends, all of the people that have reached out and told us that they are extremely positive about their experiences, about eating healthy, about continuing to help us with our mission. The school systems, the city employees, everyone that's really brought us up. We're tremendously grateful to have that. The reason why I decided to open up this shop in the heart of Marysville was, number one, it's a great location. And number two, I live here. This is about a 5-minute walk from my house. I really wanted a place that people that live near me, my neighbors, could go and enjoy a healthy meal. At Yeasty Boys Delicatessen, we make everything from scratch, top to bottom to top. We offer soup, salads, sandwiches. We have an eclectic amount of pastries that we pull recipes for. Our number one pastry is obviously the cinnamon roll. It's what we're known for. We keep a variety of those in stock. This is our 3rd year in Marysville. The last 2 years, we were voted best deli in Marysville. I believe that's a direct reflection of our food and are embraced by the community. We've done a tremendous amount of partnerships with the schools in the area. They've accommodated us. We try to accommodate them as best as possible. Businesses in the area as well have reached out and ordered catering on multiple different occasions. We have a tremendous amount of regular customers who have influenced our menu. So I think that's going to be something that we're going to do going forward. If we feel that warm embrace and people have opinions about what we should provide, we're always going to keep an ear open to that, because we want to give out as much as we get in.
The city's general fund year-end revenues and expenditures met or exceeded expectations. General fund revenues surpassed $36 million. a 12% increase compared to 2023. This growth resulted primarily from an increase in income tax revenue, investment earnings, and the sale of property in Innovation Park. Income tax revenues continue to be the major source of revenue for the general fund, accounting for 76% of total revenue. General fund expenditures totaled $38 million, a 10% increase compared to 2023. This increase in expenditures is primarily attributed to the city's increase in transfers to the Capital Improvement Fund and Police, Fire, and Court Fund. Police and fire continue to be the largest expense supported by the general fund. Transfers to the Police, Fire, and Court Fund accounted for 45% of the general fund expenditures, with the capital improvements transfers coming in second at 22%. Therefore, 67% of all general fund expenditures are spent on those two areas. Several significant capital improvement projects were completed in Marysville during 2024. The aging and inadequate Square Drive pump station, formerly located in the old Culver's parking lot, was replaced by the new Watkins Road pump station, situated along Watkins Road just east of Watkins Glen Apartments. The new pump station has an initial capacity of 2.5 million gallons per day, expandable to 5 million gallons per day, and will support future development and growth on Marysville's east side. It also serves as a catalyst for the Marysville East developments. The total project cost was approximately $14.5 million. The city's annual pavement maintenance program improved approximately 3 miles of roadway through milling and resurfacing. This project also included pavement markings, curb and gutter repairs, traffic calming measures, and ADA-compliant curb ramps. Streets were selected and prioritized based on their pavement condition rating, which is assessed every 3 years. The total cost of the 2024 pavement program was approximately $1.6 million. The State Route 31 Phase 3 Improvements Project widened State Route 31 from 2 to 4 lanes from US 33 and 36 Bridge to Elwood Avenue. A 10-foot wide shared use path was installed on the west side of the roadway and a 5-foot wide sidewalk was installed on the east side of the roadway to provide connections to the existing pedestrian facilities north and south of the project. New traffic signals, pedestrian crosswalks, a mid-block pedestrian crossing, street lighting, and street trees were also installed along the corridor. This project will improve congestion issues along the corridor and provide safe off-street pedestrian paths and walks for residents and students to and from Marysville High School. The total cost of this project was approximately $4.5 million, with the city receiving $2.6 million in funding from the State of Ohio Department of Transportation. Marysville proudly hosted the USA BMX Buckeye Nationals August 16th through the 18th at our BMX track. The event brought 665 racers and over 2,700 attendees to our community, representing 32 states and 3 countries. As 2024 comes to a close, we look forward to a prosperous 2025 filled with opportunity for our city. We are committed to making decisions that benefit our entire community and working diligently to ensure a bright future for all of our residents. Paul Cunningham and his team at Cool World Photography, they do our State of the City each year, and just want to thank Paul and his team. Thank you. The highest priority of the city right now is passing a school levy. And so for the next few minutes, I'm going to ask our superintendent of schools, Diane Allen, and an individual very involved in the Marysville schools, or has been, Aaron Morrison, to come up forward. And we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of the upcoming school levy. Do you guys mind just coming right up here? I'll put you on the spot, and maybe in those 2 seats. Thanks for being here tonight. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
This is awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit. I mean, I am serious in the fact that coming up in May, we have a levy coming up, and it's of the utmost importance and absolutely critical that the school levy passes this May. So let's talk a little bit. Aaron, I think I'm going to start with you. Can you give us a little background on yourself, your family, and how you've been affiliated with Marysville Schools?
Sure. So my name is Erin Morrison. I grew up in Marysville and graduated from MHS in 2002. I went to OU and got my teaching degree, and then in 2006, I was fortunate enough to get hired as a second grade teacher at Naven Elementary in 2006. During my first couple of years teaching, I lived in Dublin and Westerville, but I knew that my ultimate goal was to move back to Marysville when it was time to raise my own family. Shortly after getting married, my husband and I did just that. We moved back to Marysville, not just because I was teaching here, but also because of the wonderful experience that I had coming up through the school system, and I wanted the same for my own children. We now have 2 kids. Our son, Grady, is a 7th grader at Bunsold, and our daughter, McKenna, is a 5th grader at Creekview. I taught in the district for a total of 18 years. I was a 2nd grade teacher, a 3rd grade teacher, and a reading specialist. And even though I no longer work in MEVSD, I'm still an avid supporter of our staff, our students, and the school district here.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. I'm going to come back to you here in a second. Okay, Diane, you're retiring.
I am. 88 days, but who's counting?
Who's counting? Gotcha.
Who's counting?
Diane, you've been here, what, 12 years?
13.
13 years. There you go. 13 years. And she's done a fantastic job, you guys. How about a hand for Diana? Thank you. Diane, tell us a little bit about the state of performance within the Marysville schools.
So I'd be remiss if I just didn't take the opportunity to say there's no better job than being the superintendent of Marysville. Our kids are achieving at high levels in the classroom, outside, so it's just got a really cool time right now. I would tell you that we're a 4-star district, so there's a 5-star system by the state, and we're 4 stars. We have a 98% graduation rate. We're in the top 17% of performance in the state of Ohio. But beyond that, our kids are doing great things. We have girls and boys going to the state finals in wrestling this weekend. We have 4 national merit scholars. And I don't know if people know, that means you're in the top 1% of seniors in the entire nation in terms of academic performance. So just grand champions, our FFA, we have grand champions for our show choir. It's a tremendous place to be and serve. It's such a great district.
How about that? How about some of the performance? Some question the need for new funds. I don't know how, but they're doing that. Can you provide us with some specifics about where the district ranks with other school systems in Ohio as it relates to funding?
Sure. I would also tell everyone who's here, you have a little data sheet, and I think there's lots of points on there to acknowledge, but I'll hit some highlights. Our district spends a little over $13,000 to educate a student, which is about $2,600 under the state average. So certainly proud of that. But when you think about it, we're a service organization. So 90% of our budget is people. It's salaries and benefits. And so when you take a deeper dive into our expenditures and you look at our staffing rates, 99% of schools in Ohio have a better teacher-to-student ratio than we do, and 92% of districts have a better admin-to-student ratio than we do. So we run a very lean organization. It kind of takes you over to the revenue side then, and really looking at that. We receive $5,000 less than the state average in revenue when you compare us to other districts in Ohio. So we often say we have a revenue issue, and those are some indicators that show that.
I think some of my additional questions here are going to go to where you just were a little bit. How does Marysville rank in revenue per pupil with other county districts?
Sure. So I always hate the comparison locally for sure, but I would say we all perform or spend less than the state average. So I would start with that. But we are the lowest in the county as far as per pupil expenditures.
How does Marysville schools rank in administrative expenses within the state and within the county?
So we are the lowest in the county again, but there are over 600 school districts, and we're 40th in that ranking. So the lower part, if you start at the top and work down.
Okay. What would change if the levy passes?
So this levy is not a home run for the school district. We failed a levy in May of '23 where we lost 30 staff members. We failed last fall, so it's not the home run, but it does get us over a hump. So if we were able to pass, the district would be able to hang on to 30 teachers we have or 30 staff that we have currently earmarked to reduce, so that those staff members are primarily in our elective courses, PE, arts, music, the things that really give students a brain break from the hard work in the classroom. Our STEM classes are also at risk with this, and so are our fabrication labs, AP courses. So if we're not successful for that, that would be the challenge. If we pass, the board has made the decision that we'll be able to hang on to all those positions, that we'll be able to reinstate some things we lost in November, including school resource officers and safety, and really return to a lower level of participation rates for our athletics and co-curriculars. I would also add, if we're not successful and we do have to reduce those 30 positions, we will be tied for the worst teacher to student ratio in the state.
That was where my next question was going. Any additional to add to that question? What if it fails? I mean, I can't imagine that occurring, but what if?
So the school experience certainly would look different for students. You're talking about students who currently get PE, art, music in some form on a rotating basis every day. You're talking about maybe once a semester. So we'll be no longer able to afford that daily routine. And to me, you know, when you look at our STEM classes, our robotics classes, all those things that we've worked hard to install that are really workforce development pieces for our students and help them think about their futures and what they want to do moving forward, we're not going to have those anymore.
Diane, you've done some fantastic things in the schools, over your time. As you depart and move on, what do you envision for Marysville schools moving forward?
Well, let me tell you, my first priority for the new superintendent is to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure everyone's informed about May and how important that is. And then moving forward, I just couldn't be more proud. I couldn't be more proud of the conditions we've created in schools for kids to really dream about their future and try things, so that Marysville Schools has provided this set of experiences, I would say, that helps them inform their future and allows them to dream. And I just hope that that can continue. And I'm going to continue to be the biggest advocate for this school district. I won't be far. And for public education across the board. It's too important.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a quick break. Aaron, I'm coming back to you. If there is one thing you would want people to know about the importance of passing the levy, what would it be?
Okay, so that is a hard question to answer because there are many things that I'd like people to know. I could talk about, like Diane said, the 30 plus teachers that we would be losing and just how devastating that would be, not only to them personally, but to our entire school district. I could also talk about, the effects that it would have on our community. We want our property values to stay high. We want this to be a desirable place to live. But I really want to focus on the impact that this levy ceiling would have on our students. We have over 5,000 students in our school district, and this would greatly impact them on a day-to-day basis if this doesn't pass. So some of the things, Diane, you touched on, but I just wanted to elaborate a little bit. Starting at the elementary and intermediate levels, losing our Unified Arts program would just be absolutely devastating for our students. Music, PE, technology, art, those are the times of day that students look forward to the most. For some students, that's when you see them really flourish, you see them smile for the first time during the day. Not only that, but research shows that being exposed to the arts increases academic performance. It reduces stress, improves creativity. So there's so many benefits to our Unified Arts program. And along with that, our teachers are absolutely incredible. We have extremely passionate and talented Unified Arts teachers that would, again, just be devastating to lose out on. Also, if it fails, I just want to touch on, we would lose our entire theatrical arts program here in Marysville. And even though my kids aren't in the program themselves, we've attended many plays, many show choir competitions, and I'm sure if any of you have gone and seen those, you would agree that the talent that we have in Marysville is absolutely remarkable. Those students really shine, and I just can't imagine not having that program and those students not having those opportunities. Sorry, I've got to turn my page. I'm almost done.
Do it. No, you're fine.
Lastly, as a parent, I'm concerned at the high school level, the reductions in course offerings. I'm worried that, that would make our students not as competitive, when they are applying for college, when they're applying for scholarships. I want not just my own children to have those opportunities, but really every child, every student that comes through Marysville High School and graduates, I want them to have, the opportunities to be successful in the future. I could go on and on, I won't, about the pay-to-play fees, about, the increased class sizes. Just my biggest concern is the impact that it would have, and I just feel that it would take years for us to recover from it.
One more question. Do you have any stories about Marysville schools that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to share a little bit about my own personal experience going through the Marysville school system. My family moved to Marysville when I was in second grade, and from that point on, the teachers and the experiences that I had have completely shaped and molded me into who I am today. From my elementary music teacher, Mrs. Sherrock, who is actually still teaching at Raymond Elementary and is absolutely incredible, to my years in athletics, playing volleyball, and all the life lessons that I learned in the athletics program. And just the teachers and classes, courses that I had in high school really set me up for success and helped me be prepared after graduation. I had an absolutely wonderful experience going through the school district, and I just really want the same for my own children and all the students. And then I just want to also add, as discouraging as it is to think about these potential cuts, because it is, depressing to think about and the impact they'd have on our students, I just want to remind everyone that we don't have to go down that path. We can choose to support our school district and positively influence the over 5,600 students in a positive way every single day. So I hope our community can show up for them.
How about a round of applause for Diane and Aaron? Thank you. Thank you very much. The number one priority is right there, to get this levy passed. Okay, now we're going to introduce a couple other gentlemen. I'm going to call up Brad DeHaze and Matt McQuaid. I'll do some brief introductions here. Brad DeHaze is the founder and president of Connect Real Estate, Connect Construction, and Connect Housing Blocks. And Connect Real Estate is a commercial and real estate development company, and he's an investor and a property manager as well. And so Brad's here to talk a little bit. Have a seat, guys. Brad's here to talk a little bit about the silo and water and light development in Uptown Marysville. And I'll refrain from introducing Matt yet, so we'll focus right here on Brad, if that's okay. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Terry.
How are you?
How are you today?
Awesome. You know, I'm going to go back a little bit in time, Brad, and with you, because I think I met you probably about 6 years ago or something. Tell us a little bit about what brought you to Marysville. And 6, 7 years ago, what were you envisioning? What were you thinking about?
Has it been that long? It sounds about right. So my partner in my construction company, his name's Bradley Annan. He graduated from Marysville High School, still lives here. He has a twin brother. And you know, Bradley came back to the office one day. We do a lot of large-scale urban infill type developments. So I think we've done 6 brownfields. We do a lot of, you know, large vertical historic buildings. And Bradley came back and said, hey, I'd like you to come and meet, you know, with the city manager and the mayor in Marysville and talk about, they want to know, they're getting ready to decommission the water and light plant, and they wanted to know just what, in general, what you thought that it could be. So it took maybe a month or two. We came over and met. And one of the things that we looked at was there was just a general consensus of, you know, that it could be more. And it's a non-performing brownfield right in the middle of Marysville. And you had the creek side that obviously was not highlighted, and you had the bike path that cut off on one side and then picked up again on the other side. And you looked around, and during that discussion, it came up to, we said, look, as this gets decommissioned, you know, keep us in the loop. And one of the things I would say, though, is if you really want to make an impact, you need to take away the void space between the downtown urban core and this particular property. I said, I think drawing downtown this way and tying it together is going to be a huge community asset. And over the next few years, I said I would absolutely look at that. The tall grain silo, I see that from the highway all the time as the tallest beacon downtown. And I would look at the former Scotty's dump, scrapyard that was right there, you know, across the creek. And sure enough, I think it was probably 2 or 3 years from that you circled back. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. Awesome. Give everyone here kind of an overview of what it's going to end up. I know we're showing some renderings here. If you don't mind, you know, talking about it a little bit, what they can envision happening on that site or on those sites.
So one of the things that's different about how we do business is we don't send out renderings that we're not going to do. So we do all of our planning on the front end, and the images that are behind us are of the actual site plan. They're of the actual locations of what's going to go there. You know, the only thing that we have right now is some of the features of the fitness facility right here. We have some pushback from the National Park Service, but it's you know, it would change in small items. But for what we've discussed and what the virtual walk that we have that's out there, it's going to be exactly that location for the building. So we have 272 apartments. We have 11 for sale townhomes. We have the historic water and light building that is going to be a complete adaptive reuse that we have turned into co-working. And we also have a commercial tenant that is currently in discussions on a part of it. We then have the local duck is a retail concept that we have for hospitality, which will be gaming. So we wanted to look at something we could bring to the community that would engage, you know, the entire family at different times during the day. We didn't want to take it away from, you know, Leon's Garage and some of the other great establishments that are downtown. So we wanted to add a different element and a different vibe to it. So we really put everything that we have done at other locations together to try to create something. And then other elements such as the historic bridge that the county is going to decommission and will move and be able to repurpose to connect the property over the waterway, and some of those other elements by connecting the bike path to where I think it's going to be about a 10-mile loop after that.
You're exactly right. Yes, it will. What do you think is going to be unique about your project compared to either other recent projects in this community or even other communities that you've experienced?
Well, I think this is what we do. And that's one of the great things I want to say about Marysville is when I look around at the other developments that are going on, is you really have the best in practice of all the different institutions, to where you have, I called Skip Weiler before I decided to do a residential development here, and I talked to Vision and Wilcox and all the other groups and asked them about, hey, what have you found out about your tenant mix and your lease up? I wanted to make sure that I was able to relay what we would expect with our product. And all of them said, that's a place we like to do business. It's a place it's the same reason why we have, a phenomenal group like New Albany Company sitting next to me right now. It's a great place for, developers to hone their trade. And this is what we do, is these large-scale urban infill. And one of the things that we're going to bring here is something that we've been working on for years that I think you'll hear a lot more about in the very near future. Is we have the largest modular apartment manufacturing company in the United States. It's the largest facility. It's in Columbus, Ohio, 630,000 square feet. We'll build those 272 apartments in the factory in about 3 months. You'll see these large-scale white semi-truck looking things get placed and just staged on site, starting towards the beginning of next year. And then you're going to see a crane show up and start lifting them and stacking them, and then the plastic comes off, and you'll find out that you have buildings. These are, we designed these to be LEED Silver certified. They're very high quality. But from the time of when foundations go down to when people are living in units, it's going to be the fastest building process that you've ever seen, and it'll be the less negative impact on a downtown community. We create 80% less on-site construction waste, so it's less dumpster trucks that are going through a city, breaking down your infrastructure. And we have, 70% less on-site vehicular traffic. So what we think is we're really going to be able to put a large-scale, high-quality development down with very little negative impact.
And if people wanted to see an example of your product that you just talked about, tell them where they could see it right now if they wanted to go take a look at an example.
So right now, the trolley district, historic trolley district in Columbus, Ohio, where the East Market is, across the street we did a development called the Station Apartments. And that's wrapping up right now, actually. And it's a 102-unit apartment complex that by the time it's done, it will have taken 1 year from breaking ground to done. It's incredible. Typically, a 102-unit apartment complex, 5 stories like that, would take 2 years to develop, and it's a kind of a challenging site. But, I mean, we've already built another project in Springfield, Ohio. It's sitting in the factory right now. We're just waiting to we're actually building faster than we can get sites ready. So by the time we get to Marysville's water and light development, it's going to be a fast firing machine. And I think, you're going to see this thing, if we have any snowbirds in the audience, you might leave and come back and a development is done. That's how quick it happens from when foundations are in.
You went right to my next question. Kind of give people a general idea of timelines that we may be looking at here. This is not something that happens overnight, but what can the expectations be here?
So there's different developments there. So the one that is kind of the historic building, the water and light building, we just applied for our state tax credits last week on it. We sent our Part 2 information to the Park Service, so they'll announce that in June. That will start late this year. So the foundations will start in Q4 of this year the excavation, and then you're going to see foundations going in right after in the spring of next year. But when those foundations go in the ground and you start to see all the infrastructure go in, we will have already been 2 months into our build in the factory. So I think that is the point of when you start seeing concrete strip footers go in the ground, it's going to be coming very fast after that. And that's where I think, there's a significant amount of floodplain issues down there that we've worked well with the county and with the city on getting through. The Army Corps of Engineers is involved on the bridge, on the historic bridge. So there are some lead time items, but I would say late this year, you're going to start seeing dirt turn. Next year, you're going to see apartment buildings up. It is going to stretch all the way, though, into 27 and 28 with some of the retail components in the historic buildings, because that's one thing, we do a lot of historic buildings, and they take time.
Gotcha. Thanks for answering those. Now, I'm going to go into a question here that you've heard us earlier regarding the importance of the schools to the community. Can you discuss the partnership between the city, the schools, and your company for this project and how it was critical to allow the project to proceed?
Well, that's always a tough question when you're doing development, is the combination of the municipality, development, and school districts. One of the things in Marysville that was unique is one of my best friends is a gentleman named Steve Cox that I-9 Sports that actually chaired the campaign for the school levy. And so I had a really in-depth knowledge through Steve that I could trust of how Diane did business, and I requested a meeting with some school board members just to understand going in, is this something, are we going to be able to all work together? Because that is one thing I think for a developer, especially from out of town, we knew we had a city council that was invested. They came to our office, they came toward our projects, they did a great job, and we also knew that they had a particular desire to have a high-end quality product there. And development of large-scale urban infill on a brownfield site that was formerly a dump with a historic building, with historic grain silos, there's a lot there. So what we ended up doing is there was a collaborative effort between the city and the school district to work together. We're paying, obviously, every year into the tax base for the schools. We're going to create a huge municipal income tax splash for the community. And the biggest thing on this particular site is that it was a non-performing asset. There was nothing else there that was generating any taxable revenue for the schools or for the city. And once we all really came together and talked about that and talked about, the likelihood or lack of likelihood of this being easily done by a third party, everybody came together and said, you know what, we think we can work together. So I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure working with everyone. And I think the biggest thing is everybody's just, they've understood what they were able to do. They worked together and they came to a great solution.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. Do you mind hanging out a little bit longer? Oh. I'm going to shift over to Matt McQuaid. Matt, you guys might all be very familiar with Matt already. He's been all over the community, and he's here to talk about New Albany Company's perspective on Marysville and to share his informed insight on what our community can and should be doing to assure its economic success now and into the future. And so, Matt, I'm going to kind of give you got to kind of heads up here a little bit on some of the questions where I'm going here. Can you tell us what brought New Albany Company to Marysville and to consider Marysville?
Sure. Thank you, Terry. In 2022 and 2023, the New Albany Company, and by the way, we operate locally as the Marysville Land Company, so if you see both of those names here, one and the same. The New Albany Company made a strategic decision to take its development program into new markets. So all the things that made the 20,000 acres that were master planned and developed by the New Albany Company in the city of New Albany, where could we find other communities that had the attributes that would make that kind of development successful. And we looked all across the state, and we do have positions now all across the state. But Marysville was, if not our first priority, one of our first priorities. It was critical for us to have a development opportunity in the Columbus region, just because you want to have the tailwinds that come with being in Central Ohio and the Columbus regions based on the favorable demographics here, the diversity of industries, the fact that those industries keep evolving. The list goes on and on and on. You've got population growth. So it was important to find something in the Columbus region. The next question becomes where and why? Well, it was important that we found a place that had made investments in infrastructure, and we're continuing to look at what investments in infrastructure may be necessary in the future based on the growth that's occurring in those communities. Proximity to the city was important. We didn't want to be too close. We didn't want to be too far away. We wanted to find a community that valued jobs and manufacturing jobs and economic development, and Marysville checks all those boxes. Your STEM school, it's an international community. You have an incredibly charming uptown Marysville, excuse me. The list goes on and on and on, but what really sealed the deal for us was the support that we saw and felt from council and the staff. A lot of the New Albany company's success in the city of New Albany was because of that relationship between the city and the developer. And we had we knew that that was going to be an important attribute wherever we decided to go next, and we certainly found that here in Marysville.
The New Albany Company has such a strong reputation for producing high-quality development, and you've often talked about master planning as a differentiator.
Sure.
Can you share more about that process and how staying disciplined with your planning produces better development? Absolutely.
Thank you. So we have about 800 acres on the other side of 33 that we're calling Marysville East. We have about 590 acres on the other side of Industrial Parkway and the CSX railroad tracks that we're calling Marysville South. Marysville East was really our entree into the community. It's what we started working on first. Marysville South came into the picture a little bit later. But we started assembling Marysville East and have been working on it since March of 2023. So number one is not being in a rush and taking a long strategic view to planning instead of a more short-term transactional view. I'm sure there are communities that we could go into, find land that's fairly relevant for, fairly competitive for development, make a quick buck and get in and out. That is not how we approach development. We focus on long-term collaboration and public-private partnerships, and we take a long view. So what that means is you're taking a methodical approach to development. You're not moving quickly. You are understanding the myriad implications that come along with every single decision that's being made and what may come after that. So I could talk for an hour about the master planning process, but for what we're doing here in Marysville, it is taking a long view, a methodical approach, focusing on our partnerships with the community and the city, understanding what their objectives are and their visions are, and making very thoughtful decisions.
Awesome. Based on your experience with what businesses are looking for, what are Marysville's selling points?
Sure, and I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier about what brought us here, but it's really those things plus one other element. So even though we've been taking, a methodical, collaborative approach to our development plans here, we're at the point where we've made enough progress where there's still work to do. We're still working on some of the public financing elements of our plan. We're still working on our development agreement with the city that's going to memorialize roles and responsibilities for things like infrastructure development. But those things are far enough along where we're also actively selling. We have hosted users here that we think would be great citizens of the community. And by the way, back to the master planning question, when we land a user, that causes us to reevaluate, okay, what are the next steps now that the dynamics changed a little bit? But During a recent visit, like I really enjoyed getting up and like welcoming them to the community and giving the introduction, saying, listen, I know what you're trying to do. I worked at One Columbus for 12 years before I moved over to the New Albany company and have a very intimate understanding about how companies go through a site selection process and decide where they're going to locate. It is all an exercise of risk mitigation and finding the least, in most cases, the least risky operation. And I got to get up there and say, listen, we just did what you're doing. We just evaluated dozens upon dozens of communities where we could go in, spend a very long time, and build something that both we and the community can be proud of. And these are the reasons we're here. And I mentioned them already: Columbus region, accessibility, talent, operating cost, welcoming community that values economic development and manufacturing. But the one additional thing where we feel like we are the final piece of the puzzle is speed to market means everything. And where you can really get tripped up in your ability to deliver speed to market is not having shovel-ready land. And that's really what we're preparing here. We are coming in and spending the advanced time, taking a lot of the financial risk on ourselves to be ready with the city of Marysville when opportunity comes knocking to capture it, because we've identified and mitigated a lot of the risk up front, which at the same time means when a company comes here to evaluate the site, they will recognize that and they can implement their project quicker. So a lot of what companies will be sold on Marysville is what sold us on Marysville. We think the one additional element to that is we're bringing the developable land.
Awesome, great answers. How do your proposed developments align with Marysville's strategic plan?
Sure. So there's a couple of areas. One, I mean, for a community and a community's finances, we look at our role here as bringing the additional revenue for the city by expanding the tax base, by attracting new companies here, helping existing companies expand, creating jobs and opportunity for residents here and in the surrounding areas that also are going to end up contributing revenue to the city, which helps things like have the great uptown that you have and potentially make it even better and support new developments like what Brad just talked about. So ask the question one more time, because I was getting on myself.
How does it fit with Marysville's strategic plan?
There we go. So when we get to the strategic plan, those are all the benefits. But as far as the strategic plan goes, Marysville South was already noted in the strategic plan as being a location for economic development, largely because of the infrastructure. You are in close proximity to the Scotts Lawn 33 interchange. There is heavy power on that site. There's a substation right next door to it. It has rail siding. It was already zoned for two different types of industrial uses, light and heavy manufacturing. So it was already noted in the comprehensive plan for that very reason. And we agreed with all that. So we decided to move forward with that property. With Marysville East, a portion of it was mentioned in the comprehensive plan, but it was really just a relatively thin strip along the highway that was probably too thin to develop anything in anyways, but it was there because you had frontage on 33 and you were in close proximity to the interchange. So even if the totality of Marysville East wasn't necessarily mentioned in the comprehensive plan for economic development, a reason for that is a large part of it was still being farmed. It was zoned for agriculture. And when we came in there, we recognized it. We rezoned the property. It had many of the same attributes that had Marysville South in the comprehensive plan as an engine for economic development. You had strong infrastructure, you had access to 33, and you were on the interchange. Really the one thing that was missing was the zoning and improving the access. And we're at the point now where that site is zoned for the same uses as our position over at Marysville South. And we are now starting to think further about infrastructure and building the access road that's actually going to open up Marysville East for development.
Thank you. I'm going to ask both of you one more question because you both, have children, and Matt, I'll start with you. What's your view of the importance of school districts in a community from your experience, not only as your family, your own family, but even in the economic development world?
It means everything. I mean, it's always going to be a question that's asked when you're dealing with an end user, because workforce development means everything. And it doesn't take much looking beneath the surface to start asking questions about and seeking information on, what's the financial condition of the school system, and ultimately, how's that going to impact us as a company? It becomes harder for a company to make a decision to locate in a community if there are financial challenges with the school district. So just competitively, it's really important. But going back to our values as a company, it's one of the highest priorities for us, because strong schools equals strong communities. So we've been fortunate to build a relationship with Superintendent Allen and her school board as we have continued to advance our plans in the community. And we haven't even gotten to the point where we've had anything in front of them in a school board meeting or anything like that. That will come at some point, but it's just because relationships and collaborations with schools, you can't separate it from what we're doing. So it's critical.
I'll shift to you, Brad, for one more question. Same question. The importance of schools to a community.
Yeah, so I have 5 children. My wife was a high school guidance counselor, so I'm a little biased. But I would say this: well-funded schools maintain stable communities. It's a fact. We've hit a tough time economically with the tax base and with the economy and with interest rates, and it's kind of this perfect storm, at post-COVID of just these highs and lows, and you're seeing school levies fail all over the state. But at some point, there has to really just be a return to normalcy and level-headedness and support. I can't think of a better thing than supporting schools. As an investor, as a developer, as a family person, it's some of the best dollars a family can spend, and that's what we look for. We look for great communities, and that's the thing. That's what I saw in Marysville. That's what everyone told me. I've been in most of your stores that were on lineup there. I mean, we do our research. I've spent a lot of time unannounced in downtown Marysville at day and night, and you have a phenomenal community, you have phenomenal people, and I have all the faith in the world that cooler heads will prevail, and you're going to win here at some point. I just hope it's sooner rather than later. There's no reason to defer it.
Thank you guys for being here. Really, really appreciate it. We need to begin closing the state of the city. I do want to introduce 2 people that were here tonight that you need to know. Kenny McDonald, the CEO for One Columbus, who's right here. Kenny, raise your hand. Kenny, thanks for being here. Somebody else you're going to get to know as time goes on here a little bit is a gentleman that serves as the executive director for the Beta District, which is the 33 corridor here, the entire 33 corridor. We work very closely with the city of Dublin and Union County and right along the corridor all the way to Logan County. We are very invested in this corridor, which is called the Beta District. And we have Doug McCullough here today. Doug, raise your hand, stand. Doug McCullough, the executive director for the Beta District. And he's doing a fabulous job, you guys, and he'll work out very well. Morpsey's in the house today. Dr. Bradley, will you raise your hand, please? Morpsey's in the house. So it's all, guys, I can't introduce everybody here, but I wanted to thank you all for coming tonight. Feel free to stick around a little bit, and let's make 25 just a fantastic year here in Marysville. Thank you.